Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Barnes.
And I'm Mark Langley.
Hi Mark, I'm going to go straight into the questions for you this week so people can start to get some answers. The first one is from Tracy, and she's wondering if you might be able to just divulge a little bit of your extensive knowledge on sort of a saying that sometimes people hear battered around, and what your feelings are on it, whether you think it's got a lot of relevance or not. I'll give you a bit of context to it first though. She's got a mare she took to one of your clinics a few weeks ago, and she's new to Mark Langley horsemanship and she's loving it, so that's great to hear. Thank you, Tracy. Her mare has strong thoughts about the arena work though, and since she did the clinic, she took her mare then to a slightly different clinic working cattle, ranch sorting and introduction to cutting, and in that setting she responded really well. She was confident and willing. So she's wondering whether that change that she noticed in her is due to giving the horse a job as opposed to arena work. Is it a thing? Does it work?
Give your horse a job is a bit too, it's kind of a vague thing, I find, and the reason a job, I'm not saying it's bad. Give your horse a job. What's the job? You know, in a sense, but in the sense of when it comes to sort of working cattle, you know, the sort of stuff that you did, that you found opened your horse up, is it basically gave a horse a pathway for its thoughts, and you know that task of following something, and you know distraction and looking at things, and you know, it gets them to go towards their thoughts better. So it inspires a horse to go towards its thoughts, make decisions for itself. So it's a happier horse. Okay. So, you know, basically we've got to think it's not necessarily giving a horse a job as such. It's giving them it's kind of a task that requires them to sort of think about something. Now, sometimes a horse will think about the cattle more than us or something like that and then get really worried or whatever. But and even when you're out on a ride out in the bush, because there's so many logs to step over and things to look at, the horse's mind has to come out and start to be more responsible, because there's more things out there that could be dangerous and things like that. So the horses start to think more and start to get a bit more desire. So what we're trying to do is create desire. And even, you know, when I was starting a lot of horses, if I found a horse that didn't have a lot of desire and it didn't have a lot of energy and it was a little bit you know, just didn't have that confidence to then I just sort of take it slow, but I just gently start to take it out and give it a few things to look at, and it will start to look around and start to open up its senses, and then it'd start to travel and go towards its thoughts more. And if I had a horse that I wanted to work it in a sort of a safe area in an arena or something like that to do some other things, I'd firstly sometimes, to get more impulsion and more desire, I would have taken it out a bit first. I'm not recommending everyone when they're starting horses, take them out first, then bring them back to the arena, because obviously you need a bit of foundation on them before you go out in the paddock. But just to get them sort of traveling and more inspired to go forward, things like that, I'd take them out because there's more stimulant out there for them to think about. Now, you can... But once the horse was actually confident in listening to me, feeling me, and then going towards its thoughts, because as I say, there's more to draw that horse's thoughts out of itself instead of just suck back on the person and go, I'm listening to you, but I can't make any decisions. So some horses listen really well, but we have to carry them along like a wheelbarrow. So basically that outside stuff and cattle and all that sort of stuff gets them thinking, draws them out, and it's not so I'm just focused on pressure and I don't like pressure. Well, not all horses don't like pressure if you teach a horse to be okay with pressure. But this gets me onto the big thing of the subject, is in training, if we provoke a horse to go towards his thoughts through pressure, we don't have the same soundness as if we're just getting a horse to move away from pressure. So the example of you know, in the arena, the horse goes sour or things like that. Most horses in arena, one, get hammered more in an arena. So, you know, I want you to do circles here, back up here, go here, and it's just like constant. And then when they go on the trail ride, the person sits there and they talk to their friends. So the horse goes, oh, this is good. I like it out here. Now, sometimes, you know, so that's like the distaste of being constantly hammered in an arena. So we can sour horses. But in most cases, what it is when we train our horses, we obviously sometimes get them to move away from pressure. Move off my leg, move back off the reins, move. And a lot of horses are just moving off the pressure, like the pressure of the bit comes on, they move off the pressure of the leg comes on, and they're just thinking on the pressure. So the person is carrying them with their legs, and the horse constantly wants to stop a bit, but it doesn't matter because the person kind of makes up for it by just adding more leg and keeping them going, or a stick or something like that. So the horses just think on pressure, so they become very, sour because all they're doing is just moving off pressure. And you can imagine it like, I'm just moving off that pressure, and they're not thinking. So what you have to do is you have to set clear questions that have answers that require a horse to think. So people wonder why I don't, I've got this horse that won't go out, and wonder why I just keep asking the same question and not pushing it too much. It's because I want that horse to go, oh, I'm going to let go of the pressure and I'm going to go towards my thoughts. And then when it does that, it starts to go, I'm going towards my thoughts. Where am I going? And then all of a sudden it's making a decision for itself. When you pick up a left rein, I'm thinking left, I'm going to the left, I'm going towards my thoughts. So of course the horse is doing it for themselves. They don't sour as much. And that's why if you set up in the arena, even though there's less stimulant, it's kind of a sort of a boxed off place that doesn't have as much stuff. A horse can still happily go around following the left rein, the right rein, thinking backwards with a lot less sourness, because it's actually pressure is an opportunity, not a threat. So when a horse thinks on pressure and moves off pressure, just thinking about the pressure, it's a threat. When you put pressure on and the horse goes, pressure's coming in here, and I'm going to think over here, then basically what happens is the horse goes, pressure is an opportunity. So you add pressure, it's opportunity to go towards its thoughts, and then the horse is a lot happier and a lot softer. So if you can inspire your horse to go towards their thoughts in an arena, then the arena is not such a bad place. But what makes a horse go towards its thoughts on the outside and moving cattle, doing jobs as such, is there's more things to take that horse to think about. So it brings it out to go towards its thoughts more. That's why they're happier outside, because even that sort of log or gully brings that horse's thoughts out to say, I need to watch where my foot goes so I don't, fall in a hole. That's a horse doing something for itself. Once you do something for yourself, you start to feel happier, more positive. Once you just move away from pressure, the pressure becomes a threat, and you're not doing something for yourself, you get more sour. And that's just basically, that's the way I see it anyway. So yeah, sometimes jobs inspire more thought in a horse because there's more things happening.
I sense from your answer though that there's a negative side to that saying. Is there another context?
Yeah, there is, because the negative side is people just think that, well, I go give my horse a job. It's not the job; it's the thought pattern behind the task that's making the horse soft and feel good. So if they just went out and gave their horse a job, like, I'm going to sit on my horse and just, because I've seen plenty of horses that really hate working cattle because they've just been frightened of pressure, and they just are too fractured because they don't understand the pressure of our legs and our reins that well, and then they're made to sort of gallop and chase cattle and all this sort of stuff, so they just end up fried. So giving them a job just made it worse, because they actually put them in Afghanistan without any tools. So then the horse ends up with post-traumatic stress syndrome every time it sees cattle. So that's the other side of it, so that horse needed better foundation. But if the person was training it in a way that was constantly moving away from pressure, they could have spent years in the arena and still not have a horse that's going to be soft after cattle, because they're so worried about the pressure that's applied to it in the arena. So, if we just went out, the horse is a bit sour, let's give it a job, we could blow it up, because the horse actually doesn't understand stuff in the arena or in a safe place, and then we give it a job, and then we just suddenly give it a job which is basically way more stress on that horse, and then it goes wrong. So some horses, it can blow their mind. And the other thing is, if we just say we're giving our horse a job, and we're not recognizing that horse is thinking for itself and pressure is an opportunity, not a threat, then we're really not, we're just making it do something that's, I'm going to go do a job. No. It's going to be the same problem.
Right, nothing simple, but definitely some things to think about there, Tracy. Okay, the next question is, a little bit more technical. It's all about bits and whether to use them or not. It comes from Carla. She's over in Germany. She's looking forward to working with you. She'll be training with you, Mark, when you're in Cologne and Sendenhorst. So that's coming up. And Carla says that she's got a 4-year-old warm blood gelding, and they haven't yet introduced a bit into the training. What they do is they use a bridle that crosses under the chin, and the reins are pulled from the opposite side when they're placed. The problem is that she's noticed is that when you release pressure with the reins, the crisscross under the chin holds tension. So she feels like in general their steering and stopping is not great, but maybe a bit wouldn't necessarily help with this because it feels like he perhaps is not understanding or paying attention. She has tried long lining and she doesn't really feel confident with the long lines, so she's wondering whether she should just try a bit or try a rope halter, side pull, or bosal. What were your thoughts on that?
Just change your side pull, really, at the end of the day. If you want to make a simple change, just do a basic side pull where the reins just come from the side of the horse's face instead of a cross under system. There's two different types of cross under systems. One of them kind of crosses under, goes kind of around the head, crosses under, and the other one is it kind of just has a chin one that comes up through here, and that kind of tightens up a little bit as you use the reins. The problem with it, it's all just you've got something slipping through something else, and as you say, it's not sort of releasing as quick. So the cross under ones that were sort of the rubbery ones never sort of released that quick. The leather was a bit smoother, but still at the end of the day, I want a direct feel to that side of the horse. I don't want a sort of some cross under system going around the head. And some of the cross under systems that go around the head, in the blurb about them, they're designed to get a horse to kind of want to hug the head and want to bring the head down. Well, we don't actually want the horse just to bring his head down to pole pressure when we ride it. We want it to actually lift the wither and balance properly, not just bring the head down. So actually you don't necessarily, sometimes you want to lift that head up in training. So I like just a direct feel that I know where the reign's going, and I know there's no kind of, roundabout deviation that rein goes through to, get some sort of response. So I'm big on 3-dimensional reins. Sometimes you lift it, sometimes you open it, sometimes they're all over to get a young horse to balance. And so basic side pull. If you look at your cross under system, I'll nearly guarantee that you can take the cross under off, go straight to the rings that you have on the side, and to replace the chin strap, the throat latch, to replace the throat latch, which you would just get somebody to make a throat latch with 2 buckles on it, and that would turn into your new throat latch. I'm pretty sure you could get away with trying that, and you could turn your current bitless into just a normal bitless bridle, side pull bitless bridle without the cross under. Regarding a bosal, don't go near a bosal. I'm not saying for the bosal people that bosals are bad. I'm just saying if you're learning and you're trying to, mouth your horse, a bosal, if you look at a bosal, if you pull a right rein, the bosal, because it comes at the back, will, much like a halter will do the same thing, will turn left. So you pull the rein right, but the ring turns right. So you pull the right rein and the ring turns left. You pull the left rein and the ring turns right, which means it's kind of, if you use it wrong, it's pushing against the way you want your horse to bend. So you have to be very careful, and because they're quite rigid. So to me, a horse has to have a bit more foundation and know how to bend and look into a turn before you go to a bosal if you're going that sort of style of Western riding. But you can do a lot in a side pull and you don't need it. So I'd recommend the side pull as my, especially for the riding you're doing in Germany. It's a bit like riding in a snaffle bit in the sense that it's very direct to the sides of the mouth, and you can do all your rein positions, quite easily with it. It's kind on the horse. And once you've got the horse balancing really nice and there's no trauma, the horse is soft and wanting to follow rein and backing nice, and you're not finding that it's sort of leaning and sort of lost, then I tend to go, if you wanted to go to a bit, you go to a bit. But if the horse is lost and pushing, then basically you're going to have to do that through its mouth, and you can get a lot done without having to go to its mouth and cause, unwanted bruising or damage in its mouth. So when the horse is a lot softer again, then I'd probably go to a bit and say, now follow the bit. if you wanted the bit in. And you don't have to ride in a bit, but a bit can also give you some levels of refinement depending on the angles you can put in their mouth and the way you can sort of, float the bit in their mouth in different spots. You can get a certain level of refinement, which is quite nice. But in saying that, you can get a lot done and just get everything you want it done without it. But as I say, get it done right with the side pull before you go to the bit, so you're not fighting on their mouth and worrying them.
Great. Okay. Next question is from Nicole. Completely different matter, I'm afraid. This one, although it's to do with the mouth, is about biting. She's got a new horse that has just started biting when doing groundwork. Doesn't matter if her hand is close up to the lead rope or just walking ahead, and it's becoming quite a problem.
Yeah, there's lots of different reasons for biting. Like we had a horse at the last clinic. He was quite extreme in his ways, but he was a young horse that hadn't been exposed properly to herds and things like that. And he was desperate for certain things, but you couldn't allow him to do it because he had no idea of boundaries or anything like that. So his desperation to nip and play, and also he didn't know whether to be aggressive or not. He had his kind of so it was very, we had to be very clear that we didn't want any nipping or anything like that. And even well, let's just listen to him and let him get that out of his system. Well, he didn't have any idea of how to be around people or probably even other horses to be able to allow him to just get it out of his system and then say, oh, that's right, I've done it now, I'll soften. So that was like the playful biting. And I think it was like, because with the owner, he was kind of really challenging her boundaries as well. And in the sense that he wants to play and bite, but then he also wants to sort of say, hey, I want to push you down the pecking order as well. And so for him, there was no way we'd allow any sort of little bit of nibbling to see if that just sort of softens them and gets it out of their system. With some shutdown horses and stuff, you might allow that, but not definitely not with a horse like that, because it would lead, one thing would lead to another. So I have a feeling by the sounds of it, as you're educating your horse, the biting is something that is like, you're pushing on me and niggling me, and I'm getting niggled about it, and I'm going to get nippy about it. So part of the biting is through the horse not finding the soft answers, and sometimes it might be just offering more clarity in the question. So when you ask it to back up and you push it, it starts to go yam, 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 yam with its mouth, then you might push it a little firmer till it gets through to its feet and starts to think backwards, and then the horse is thinking and moving a bit freer, and that'll take over. That bit of extra firmness and that trying to get it to balance and think backwards might get that horse to think about that more. And then as it starts to think about that, the nibbling might stop a little and they just soften as the horse finds the backup. So the backup becomes the replacement, or following the field becomes the replacement. Inevitably, what's happening is the horse is letting go of that thought to take on a new thought. So all training is mostly about offering horse an alternative to what it's doing. So, and that could just mean firming up a little bit to get some clarity instead of a long, consistent pressure where the horse is just going, oh, I don't really know, and I've just got to get annoyed with this. Okay. The other thing that you can do is just do the basic let go of that idea. So basically, when you're doing something and the horse starts to sort of just start to get niggly and just that train of thought goes off to biting and nibbling and all that sort of stuff, you can do something like, hey, let go of that. And they get a little shock and they go, like, pop a flag, and they go, oh, and then you stand quietly and then their mind softens. For horses that are a bit defensive when we come into their space and things like that to work them, I actually kept them to come up the rope to me, and then I grab the knot and then I start to work them from the knot instead of going for the hand and just going with my hand straight up underneath their chin and taking a grab at them and then getting defensive because I'm just coming up and like I'm poking someone on the nose or something. I'll get them to lead up to my hand and just work them a little bit. But as I say, if I was doing any exercises where the horse was kind of just biting at me, biting at my hand, all that sort of stuff, I'd either reinforce the exercise a bit to get the horse to let go of the strong thought of biting until it softens into the feel. Or I might do a reset, which, as I say, could be a bang on the leg, a flag, and reset it, and then say, try again. But I don't go at them for it. I don't go, get out of that, and make them defensive, because if they're starting to test that sort of stuff, I'll do something big to get them let go of thought, but then I'll stand very quietly and calmly, and a second later I might put my hand out for them to sniff on or something like that to show them that, soft interaction's okay, but hard interaction's not. So I don't just sort of say, don't do that. I say, let go of that. Now, how do you want to say hello? Good. Now, this is how we say hello, softly. You know, if someone walked up to you and just walked into your space and grabbed you by the hand and shook your hand, you'd feel pretty uncomfortable. But if someone meets you quite evenly and equally and gives you an even handshake where you both can gauge each other a bit, it's okay. It's on both terms, that are equal terms. And that's what we're sort of trying to do. We might just go in on equal terms and say, now let's softly say hello. Now, when I take the knot, that's not a challenge of me versus you. That's you learning how to follow the knot and things like that. And there's so many other areas that'll come into play. But basically, they've got to let go of that. It could be through better question, a more clear question where the horse actually finds the answer instead of wondering and getting anxious and worried. Or two, just to clear let go of that thought. But then after that, allow them to soften and feel good about just letting go of that thought. And then we go back to a bit of education again.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you very much to the questions to all of our members. And Mark, we look forward to good luck with your tour in Europe. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. You can learn more from Mark and his approach online through his online training videos. Just search Mark Langley Horsemanship. Join hundreds of others around the world making real progress, fixing problems and improving their relationship with their horses. There are now over 500 training videos. Make use of the 7-day free trial and take a look. Membership is just $15 a month and you get to ask Mark a question.